The flight hadn't even reached cruising altitude when the screaming started. At first, I thought it was another tired child, the kind that parents try to hush with sugar or toys. But when I looked, my breath caught. Her little face was red, streaked with tears, and she was gripping the armrests like the world would swallow her whole. And then I saw him, the man in the seat across the aisle. Tall, impeccably dressed, but utterly helpless. The billionaire from glossy magazine covers, looking smaller than the child in his panic. I glanced down at my book, pretending not to notice, but I couldn't stop. I never could. Please. Someone, the man muttered under his breath, not loud enough for anyone else to hear. But I heard him. I swallowed, unsure why my chest tightened. Maybe she's hungry? I offered softly, my voice barely above a whisper. He looked at me startled. His eyes were sharp, calculating, but something fragile lurked beneath, the panic of a father who couldn't protect his child. I've tried everything. Formula, toys, games. Nothing works. I bit my lip. I'd never been good with kids. I had books, order, quiet, but chaos? This was chaos. And yet I felt a strange pull. Maybe I can try, I said almost too quietly, my hands shaking. He hesitated as if he couldn't believe someone like me, a librarian, someone small, invisible, could actually intervene. You think you can? I don't know, I admitted, my throat tight. I just want to help. The child's cries cut through the cabin again. She batted at her father's hand and screamed louder. Everyone else was glaring at him, or me, I realized. I felt their judgment pressing in. I knelt slowly, careful not to scare her more. Hey, I murmured. It's okay. You're safe. She froze, one hand on her mouth, tears trembling. The tension in the cabin made my stomach twist, but I held my breath, waiting. Her father watched, jaw tight. I can't. I don't know what to do. You're doing fine, I whispered, moving just a little closer. I held out a small plush bunny I'd noticed sticking out of her diaper bag. Her eyes flickered. Curiosity? Oh, she didn't reach for it. Not yet. Try me, he said finally, voice breaking. Please. Anything. I nodded and sat closer. Okay. No rushing. Just one step at a time. The child's hands twitched, almost in protest, and I froze with her. I could feel the passenger's stares, but I couldn't move. Only her mattered. Hi. I'm Lily, I said softly, and this bunny, it's my friend. Do you want to meet him? Her cries slowed just slightly. A small sniffle escaped. I swallowed my relief and smiled. See? Bunny's friendly. He won't bite. I promise. Her father's gaze softened. You really think? I just want to help, I interrupted gently, keeping my eyes on her. No pressure. You can take your time. For a few seconds the world paused. The hum of engines, the chatter of passengers, all background noise to a tiny war waged in a little girl's chest. And then, slowly as if testing me, she reached. Her tiny hand grabbed the bunny's paw, and I felt a thrill that was almost terrifying. I had never been needed like this before. Not in my quiet library, not in my neat little life among books. But here, in the chaos of a flying metal tube, I mattered. Did you? He started, but I shook my head. Not yet, I whispered. We're not done. But we're starting. She pulled the bunny closer, holding it tight, and her sobs turned into hiccups. I gently rubbed her back, careful not to overwhelm her. She leaned against me just slightly, and I realized she trusted me. She trusted a stranger in a plane cabin. The father exhaled sharply. I don't know how to. You don't need to do everything, I said quietly, glancing at him. Sometimes just being here is enough. For the first time he didn't argue. He just watched like he couldn't believe it. And I wondered, was this the moment he'd finally see someone beyond the world of money, beyond the image? The child's cries faded into soft whimpers. The tension in her body eased a little. She clung to the bunny and peeked at me through wet lashes. I smiled, careful not to overdo it. You're brave, I murmured, even if you don't feel like it. Her father's voice was quieter now. You're something else, he said almost in awe. I looked away, embarrassed. I love books. I've never been around, well, someone like her. He chuckled softly, though it was edged with relief. Someone like her, or someone like you? My heart skipped. Maybe both, I whispered. The child shifted in my lap, and for a moment the world outside didn't exist. No judgment, no pressure, no glamorous billionaire persona. Just a father, a child, and a librarian who had no business being anyone's hero. Then the engines rumbled louder. The cabin lights flickered. Someone coughed behind us. And I realized we weren't finished yet. Her father leaned closer. I need to know. Can you help me every time? I mean, what if she? I froze. This was the unspoken question. Could I really step into this life? Could I be more than invisible? I didn't answer. I just smiled at the child, who was now softly humming to the bunny, her little hand in mine. And in that silence, a bond formed that no money could buy, and no one else could understand. The rest of the passengers were still watching, the tension still thick. But I felt power. Quiet, gentle, unassuming power. And I knew this was just the beginning. Because in the next moments, as she finally leaned fully against me and the father exhaled in relief, I realized something terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. My life, which had always been safe in its quiet corners, would never be the same. And the screaming had stopped, only to leave a quiet, expectant tension that whispered, the real challenges were about to begin. I felt his gaze before I heard his voice. It was sharp, calculating, the kind of look that measured worth in seconds. Judgment, suspicion, curiosity, gratitude, they all swirled in those dark eyes. My stomach tightened. I wasn't used to being noticed. Not like this. The child's tiny fists were still clenching the plush bunny I had offered, her lips trembling. She sniffled, eyes darting toward him, then back to me. She was testing me. I understood that now. She won't settle, he muttered, voice low, almost to himself. You mean not yet, I said gently. I kept my tone calm, steady. It's only been a few minutes. He shook his head. Few minutes? My entire life has been waiting for someone to just get it. And now, on a plane of all places, his words trailed off, frustrated. I glanced at the flight attendants hovering nearby. Their smiles were strained, hands clasped in polite helplessness. Do you want me to? I started, unsure what I could even offer in this chaos. He looked at me then, eyes narrowing. You actually think you can help? I want to try, I admitted, shrugging. My hands clutched the bunny tighter. That's all I can promise. He exhaled sharply. I've spent a lifetime solving problems. Money, business, crises, and I can't fix this. His eyes softened briefly as he looked at his daughter. And she's impossible. She's not impossible, I said firmly. She's just scared. Sometimes scared kids scream louder. He studied me like I'd just spoken a foreign language. You're calm. Most people panic or run. I shrugged, letting the nerves shake out quietly. I don't usually deal with screaming kids either. But something about her. I think I understand. He frowned. Understand? You barely know her. I know fear, I whispered. And chaos. And feeling invisible. The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smirk. Invisible? And yet here you are, kneeling in the aisle of my private jet, calming my daughter. You've got a strange kind of power. I swallowed hard. Power? Yes, he said, eyes intense. Influence. You could make her stop crying. You could make her listen. You could. He paused, words failing him. I kept my attention on the child, who now leaned slightly forward, eyes still wary. She's testing me, I murmured. She needs to know I'm safe. He exhaled, almost frustrated at his own helplessness. And if you fail? I won't, I said quietly, more to myself than him. My pulse pounded. The cabin felt smaller, tighter, as though everyone was waiting for the moment this fragile truce either held or broke. The child sniffled, and I offered her a gentle smile. Hey, it's okay. You're safe. I promise. Her hands twitched toward the bunny again, and I nudged it closer. She hesitated, eyes wide, then let go of the fistful of seat fabric and took the toy. Her fingers brushed mine. A spark, small but undeniable, flashed through me. He watched silently, leaning back, jaw tight. I don't know how to do this, he muttered. She looks at me like I'm a stranger. You're her father, I said softly. You don't have to do everything. Sometimes being present is enough. He laughed humorlessly. Present? I'm a businessman. I deal in decisions, contracts, strategies. Being present seems trivial. Useless. You've been trying too hard, I said almost too gently. Sometimes children need calm, not solutions. He blinked. Then he smiled, briefly, almost sheepishly. Calm, right? You make it look easy. But I can't. I've never been calm. Not around her. Then learn, I said quietly. It's never too late. He studied me, eyes flicking between me and his daughter. You're not like anyone I've ever known. Usually people, they want something. Fame, recognition, money? You don't. I shrugged, keeping my voice low. I like quiet. I like helping when it's needed and staying invisible when it's not. His laugh was bitter. Invisible, huh? That sounds familiar. I've spent a lifetime being invisible to my own daughter. The words hit me like a punch. His confession hung in the air. Invisible. The irony wasn't lost on me. The billionaire, untouchable in the world, yet utterly powerless in his own child's eyes. The child hiccuped, then clutched the bunny closer. I leaned slightly forward, whispering, "You're safe. No one's going to take you away." Her father's eyes softened, a rare break in his armor. She needs someone like you. Someone patient. Someone. I can't be. You can try, I said. But only if you listen. He exhaled, jaw tight. I don't know if I know how. I nodded toward the child. Then start small. One look. One word. One calm breath. That's all it takes. He hesitated, watching her, then attempted a soft word. Sweetheart, it's okay. She flinched. I held my breath. Then slowly, carefully, she let out a hiccup instead of a scream. And her eyes flicked toward him, recognition or suspicion. I wasn't sure which. He looked at me, astonished. I didn't think she'd even respond. She's testing both of us, I said softly. And she will decide who earns her trust. The flight attendants hovered closer, murmuring about procedures and calming techniques. I ignored them. They couldn't see what I saw. They didn't see the tension, the silent battle of trust unfolding between a father, a child, and a quiet stranger. She's complicated, he muttered. Not complicated, I whispered. Hurt, confused, and used to being ignored. His gaze snapped to me sharp. Used to being ignored? What do you mean? I swallowed. You've been busy. She's noticed. She's lonely. She's screaming because no one listened before. And now, she's testing me. He was silent. Then, you see her. I do, I said, meeting his eyes. The real her. Not the image she shows the world. Not the perfect child. The scared little girl who needs someone who actually cares. He leaned back, jaw tight, and exhaled. I've never seen her like that. No one ever sees her. Not even me. You will, I whispered. If you let her. If you let me help. The child hiccuped again and shifted slightly, leaning toward me. My heart pounded. I realized something. My presence, my calm mattered. To her. To him. And for the first time I felt a dangerous thrill. I had influence here. Quiet, subtle, terrifying influence. He cleared his throat, voice quieter now. You're remarkable. For a librarian. I never thought. I smiled faintly, hiding my own racing heart. Librarians, we notice things. We see what others miss. He didn't respond. His eyes lingered on me, studying, weighing. I felt exposed but alive. Then the child coughed, a tiny sharp sound. The spell broke. He reached out instinctively. Are you okay? She nodded slightly, still clinging to the bunny. Her eyes flicked between us, wary. And in that glance, I understood something terrifying. The real battle had just begun. Because he wasn't just observing me. He was watching, judging, testing me just as much as I was watching him, and the child. And I realized, with a thrill I couldn't name, power had shifted, ever so slightly. But no one knew yet. The cabin felt tighter, smaller. I glanced at him, our eyes locking. He exhaled slowly, almost reluctantly, a quiet acknowledgement. This librarian, this quiet girl, had become necessary. Necessary. The word echoed in my head as the child's hiccups softened, and a tense silence fell. I didn't move, didn't speak. I just waited. And somewhere in that pause, I knew the real challenge was still ahead. The child could trust me, but would he? Would he see me beyond the surface, or just the momentary magic of calm? I didn't know. But I would find out. I knelt slowly, keeping my hands in view, not wanting to frighten her. The aisle felt endless, the hum of the engines like a low heartbeat, steady and reassuring. She flinched as I moved closer, eyes wide, trembling. Her little fists gripped the plush bunny I had offered, knuckles white. Hi, I whispered softly, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. Her eyes flicked to her father, searching, questioning, then back at me. The child had learned early that people often let you down. I understood that. I had been let down too. But now, hovering on this small plane, I felt a strange thrill. I could do something that mattered. Her father's eyes were glued to us, tense. She won't let anyone near her, he muttered, voice tight. Not even me sometimes. You haven't been gentle enough, I said softly, though I kept my gaze on the child. She doesn't need grand gestures. She needs patience. He exhaled sharply. Patience, right? I don't know how to do that. I offered my hand, palm open. You don't have to. Just watch. Learn. Copy me if you want. He tilted his head, incredulous. Copy, a librarian? I smiled faintly. Sometimes librarians know more about patience than billionaires. The child hiccuped, jerking slightly. Her trust was fragile, delicate as glass. I held my breath. See the bunny? I said, holding it slightly closer. He's friendly. Do you want to meet him? Her lips twitched in a sniffle, but she didn't reach yet. I shifted my tone softer. You can take your time. You can be scared. It's okay. Her father swallowed audibly. I've never seen anyone approach her like that. Like, carefully but firmly. I nodded without looking at him. It's the only way. Kids can sense fear, panic, control. You have to be calm. And let them choose trust. She blinked, hesitant, then almost imperceptibly inched a tiny hand toward the bunny. My heart jumped. Yes, I whispered softly, that's it. Her fingers brushed mine. Electric. Brief. But monumental. The world seemed to shrink to that small contact. Her father's jaw slackened. She's touching you. For the first time. She's testing me, I murmured, holding my breath. She'll decide how much she allows. His eyes softened, and for a brief second I saw the man behind the public mask. Not the millionaire everyone adored, or envied, but someone exhausted, anxious, desperate to be enough. And yet he couldn't. She trusts you, more than me, he said, voice barely audible. I didn't look up. She's learning who actually listens. That doesn't mean she won't love you. It means you need to start paying attention. He exhaled, frustrated, then muttered, I've spent a lifetime paying attention to everything else. And I forgot the one thing that matters. I nodded gently. She notices what you ignore. She'll remember. And so will you. She let go of the bunny briefly, pressing her hand against my palm. A shiver ran up my spine. I hadn't felt needed like this before, not ever. Power, subtle and quiet, coursed through me. I wasn't ambitious, but I could influence her. Influence him. That thought was intoxicating and terrifying. Are you sure this is safe? He asked finally, voice tight. She's fragile. I glanced at him. She's delicate, yes. But she's stronger than anyone thinks. You just have to respect that. He studied me, and for the first time I felt seen, not just noticed but understood. And it scared me. Exposure could ruin my careful life of anonymity. The balance I had maintained for years could shatter in moments. But right now, nothing else mattered. She's different with you, he muttered, still incredulous. I'm calm, I said softly. You're frantic. She can feel that. He exhaled sharply. I'm supposed to be in control. Everything else, I control. Money, business, power, but this little girl, his words faltered. I can't. I don't know how. You're learning, I whispered. You start by noticing. That's all. Let her see that you care more than you demand. The child's lips quivered. She sniffled, then pressed her forehead lightly against the bunny. Her fingers remained loosely in mine. The smallest act of trust. But monumental. He swallowed. I've never seen her like that before. She hides behind walls. And she tests everyone, I said. She has to know who's worthy. His gaze softened further. And I can't be the first sometimes. She expects me to be perfect. I shook my head. No one expects perfect. But she needs you present. Patient. Observant. Not always solving everything. Sometimes just being there. He glanced at me, expression conflicted. You make it sound simple. It isn't, I said honestly. It's quiet work. Slow. But meaningful. She hiccuped again, trembling slightly but stayed in place. I held the bunny closer to her, and she finally let go of her clenched fists. Relief washed over me. She trusted me. His jaw tightened. I don't know how to do what you do. I've never been trained for this. I fail her constantly. You don't fail by trying, I whispered. Failing is ignoring her. Not noticing her. Not being present. And now, you're noticing. His eyes flicked down at her, and a faint tremor ran through his hand. Noticing, he repeated. I've been blind. All these years blind to her needs. And maybe, to myself. I didn't respond. My focus was on her. She shifted slightly, then peeked at him, unsure. I could see her evaluating him, measuring him against the stranger who had calmed her in minutes. "Do you really think I can?" he whispered, voice breaking. "Yes," I said firmly. "You can. But you have to let go of the idea that you need to do everything perfectly. You just need to be human." He exhaled, tension in his shoulders. "Human, right?" I forgot what that felt like. The child hiccuped again and leaned slightly toward me. Her trust, tentative as it was, hung in the air. I realized I had begun to shift the balance. The silent influence of a quiet stranger over a powerful man. Karma, subtle and patient, was threading its way into this moment. "Okay," he muttered finally, softer now. I'll try. I'll follow your lead." I nodded, holding my breath. "Good. One small step at a time. No pressure." She let go of the bunny's paw for a heartbeat, resting her tiny hand against mine fully. The contact was fleeting but monumental. The father's eyes widened, disbelief mixing with relief. She's letting you touch her," he said, voice sharp with awe. I can't." "Don't worry about it," I whispered. "She'll teach you. All you have to do is watch. And learn." He exhaled again, jaw tight. I've never been taught this. How to reconnect. How to love without control." "You're learning," I said softly, almost a mantra. "You're learning." The hum of the engine seemed to fade. The world shrank to the child, the bunny, and the quiet presence that held her trust. I felt power, subtle and unspoken, thrill through me. Influence without expectation. Responsibility without ambition. And yet, fear lingered. Exposure could ruin my life. Someone might misunderstand. Someone might interfere. But in this small, suspended bubble of air and trust, none of that mattered. Her father leaned forward, almost reverently. I never thought anyone could calm her like that. Not a nurse, not a nanny, not me, and here you are. I swallowed, heart pounding. "I'm just here." "Here?" he echoed, eyes soft. You've changed everything already." I didn't answer. I simply held her hand, watching her breathing slow. The quiet, fragile connection between us had begun. The first spark of trust. The subtle stirrings of karma. And the unspoken power shift. A small, shy librarian had entered their lives, and nothing would ever be the same. She hiccuped once more and leaned fully against me. And in that small, innocent act, I realized, the real journey was only beginning. Because the billionaire father, sharp and controlling in every other corner of the world, was helpless here. Completely helpless. And I, silent, invisible me, had become necessary. Necessary. The word settled in the cabin like a secret, a promise and a warning. And as I glanced at him, our eyes locking, I knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same. Not for him. Not for her. Not for me. And the plane soared on, carrying secrets, trust, and the fragile beginnings of a bond that would change all our lives. The child's sobs had quieted, but they still came in soft, intermittent bursts. Each hiccup, each tear, was a small window into her fractured world. I held the bunny closer, letting her press against it as she leaned lightly toward me. Her tiny hand occasionally brushed mine, seeking reassurance, seeking safety. Her father watched from the seat beside us, tense, awkward. I don't know what to do when she cries like that," he muttered, voice low as if confessing a sin. "You can't fix everything," I said softly. "Sometimes she just needs someone to be there. To notice." He rubbed his temples. "Notice? I notice everything else. Business, schedules, deadlines. But her. I feel helpless." "She's not helpless," I whispered. "She just doesn't know how to ask for help. And she doesn't trust that anyone will give it." His eyes flicked to the aisle, then back at her, full of guilt. "Her mother, she left years ago. I tried to make up for it, but His voice cracked, then faltered. I stayed silent, letting him fill the space. The confessions came slowly, awkwardly, like tentative steps across broken glass. "She misses her," he admitted finally. "Even now. Every day. And I failed. I thought money could compensate. Travel, schools, toys, but she doesn't need things. She needs me." I nodded, careful not to flinch at the vulnerability. "She needs your presence. Not perfection. Just, you fully here." He laughed, bitter and low. "Fully here. I don't know how to be that. I've been building empires while losing her. And now she looks at me like I'm a stranger." "She's not judging you," I said softly. "She's testing. She needs to see if you'll show up consistently even when it's uncomfortable." He swallowed, jaw tight. "Show up consistently." I failed at that. Always. I leaned slightly forward, whispering, then start now. One small act at a time. That's all it takes. He looked at me, eyes narrowing. You seem to understand her. Oh. I don't even know you. I understand fear, I said quietly. And loneliness. And needing someone to notice you. She's like me in some ways. She's testing you just like I test myself every day in the quiet corners of my life. He exhaled sharply, frustration mixing with awe. You're calm. I can't be calm. Not like you. You don't have to be, I said. You just have to care. Let her see that you care and she'll respond. She's responding to you, he muttered, eyes flicking to our small passenger. Not me. She's learning who truly listens, I whispered. You can join her. But she'll choose when. He leaned back, jaw tight, staring down at his daughter, who had finally allowed her forehead to rest against the bunny. Her soft breathing was steadying. I never thought I'd be so powerless in front of her. You're human, I said softly. Even billionaires can't buy trust. And that's what she's giving you, if you're ready to accept it. His gaze shifted to me. For a moment, admiration flickered there, subtle but undeniable. And it terrified me. I wasn't prepared for someone so powerful to notice me, not really. Could I handle it? Could I protect both her and myself in a world so quick to judge appearances? She trusts you, he murmured almost reverently. More than she trusts me. And I don't know if I can ever compete. You're not competing, I said gently. You're learning. That's enough. She'll reward patience. And honesty. Not perfection. He let out a shaky laugh. Honesty. Patience. Skills I've never needed before. And yet, they're the only things that matter now. Her tiny hand shifted in mine. I let her guide the touch, letting her set the boundaries. Power in these moments wasn't about control, it was about presence. Influence without expectation. I want to be better, he admitted quietly. For her. For myself. You will, I whispered. One step at a time. Her little head lifted slightly, her gaze darting between us. And in that flicker I saw awareness, recognition. She had noticed our interaction, the unspoken dialogue of care and attention. He leaned closer to her, tentative. Sweetheart. I'm here. I see you. She didn't move. Not yet. But she stopped flinching. Her small fingers pressed lightly into the bunny, a tentative acknowledgement. I smiled, careful to keep it soft. That's it. Just presence. That's all she needs right now. He exhaled slowly. Presence? I've never realized how much I lacked it. You've noticed now, I said quietly. And noticing is the first step. He looked at me, eyes narrowing. You've changed this flight. Calmed her. And somehow, me too. I swallowed. I didn't do it to change you. I did it to help her. You're just part of it. His gaze lingered. You're remarkable. I've never met anyone like you. I felt my pulse quicken. Admiration like that was intoxicating, frightening. I didn't have the tools to navigate attention from someone so powerful. Not yet. Why me? He whispered, voice soft. Not a nanny, not a stranger. Why you? I hesitated. Maybe because I notice. And maybe because she notices too. Kids see more than adults think. They test instinctively. And she chose trust. He shook his head. Trust. I've spent a lifetime earning respect through power, through money, through fear sometimes. And here, she trusts someone with nothing to offer but patience and calm. It feels unreal. It's real, I said softly. And it's fragile. Handle it carefully. She'll test you again and again. But if you're steady, you'll see her open in ways no one else ever has. He exhaled, jaw tight. I want that. I want to be enough for her. I don't know if I can. You can, I said quietly. You're starting. That's what counts. She hiccuped, small and tentative, then pressed her forehead against the bunny again. I could feel her relaxing slightly, letting me take some of the tension away. And in that tiny act, I realized, the first spark of trust had taken hold. He watched, astonished. She's letting you in. How? I'm not taking over, I whispered. I'm just showing her someone will listen. That's enough. He exhaled sharply, almost bitterly. I failed at that. Always. And yet, here you are, a stranger showing me how. I glanced at him. Sometimes the world shows lessons in unexpected ways. Don't resist it. He studied me, eyes dark with conflicting emotions. Admiration, guilt, awe, uncertainty. You're something else. A quiet force. I didn't think anyone like you existed. I exist, I said softly, and now you've noticed. That's all that matters. He swallowed, looking at the child. I want to be better. For her. And, maybe, for me too. You will, I said gently. One step at a time. She'll teach you. And so will I. He exhaled again, tense and relieved, a man confronted with both failure and hope. I never thought someone like you could change everything so quietly. And yet, you have. I smiled faintly, heart tight. Sometimes the smallest gestures are the most powerful. She shifted in my lap, hiccuping once more, and I realized we had created a fragile equilibrium. One small, silent trust had begun to weave together 3 lives. Her, him, and me. And yet, attention lingered in the cabin. Admiration, exposure, and unspoken attention hovered over me like a storm cloud. Could I manage it? Could I protect myself while influencing 2 people I barely knew? I didn't answer. I simply held her hand, keeping our connection steady, letting the silence stretch. Her father watched, jaw tight, exhaling slowly. You've taught me something tonight. I can't unsee it. I nodded quietly, heart hammering. Then remember it. And act on it. That's all that matters. She hiccuped again, leaning fully against the bunny, and in that moment, I understood something dangerous and exhilarating. I had begun to shift the balance. I had influence. Subtle, quiet, terrifying influence. And he had noticed. Which meant nothing would ever be the same. The storm of judgments, attention, and silent expectations waited just beyond the bubble of the plain aisle. I could feel it pressing in. And I knew deep down the next moments would test all of us. Because trust was fragile. Admiration could turn to expectation. And exposure could destroy everything. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just held her hand. And waited. The plane's wheels hit the tarmac with a thud that shook through my chest. Relief mixed with dread. Relief because the air travel was over, dread because the world outside waited, louder, sharper, and prying. The moment we opened the cabin doors, chaos erupted. Flashing cameras. Shouts. Reporters jockeying for position. The child stiffened, pressing the plush bunny to her chest like armor. Stay close, I whispered, taking her small hand. She clutched it instinctively. I felt her tension transfer to me, subtle, fragile, yet demanding control. Her father hovered behind us, suit crisp, face carefully neutral, but his eyes betrayed him. He was grateful, awkwardly so, but clearly overwhelmed. The air around him carried authority, and yet here that authority didn't protect anyone. Is she okay? He asked softly, voice tight. She's fine, I murmured, guiding her through the throng. Just keep calm. She feels what you feel. He nodded, jaw tight, exhaling sharply. I'll try. The reporters' voices swelled, questions fired like arrows. How was the flight? Can we see her? Are you both safe? I shielded her gently. Not now, I said firmly, voice low. We're moving through. He glanced at me, a faint frown of gratitude crossing his face. You handled this better than I could. I'm just aware, I said softly. We need to protect her, not answer questions. She peeked up at me, lips quivering, eyes wide. I offered a smile. We're safe, I whispered. She squeezed my hand, barely perceptible but enough to send a thrill through me. This fragile trust, built over 90 minutes at 30,000 feet, had survived the first storm. The terminal felt like a battlefield. Fans craned for photos. Cameras flashed in our faces. Everyone wanted a piece of the billionaire's life, and now, inadvertently, the child had become the epicenter. She's scared, he muttered, voice almost lost under the chaos. I know, I said. But we'll get through. Just stay with her. Let her see you're steady. He exhaled sharply. I thought wealth could protect her. I thought control could fix everything. But this is different. You can't control this, I whispered. You can only be present. He ran a hand through his hair, eyes dark. Present? I don't know how. I'm used to being the one everyone watches, everyone obeys. And now, she looks at me like I'm another stranger. You're learning, I said softly. Step by step. One interaction at a time. That's all anyone can ask. She hiccuped, tiny and trembling. I knelt slightly, holding her hand and looking her in the eye. It's okay. No one's going to push you. We're right here. Her father's gaze softened, lingering on her. I want to do right by her. I don't know if I can. You can, I said quietly. She'll show you the way. She'll let you in if you stay patient. We navigated the throng carefully. Each step brought more reporters, more questions. Each flash of light made her flinch. I shielded her as best I could, keeping my presence calm, protective, and deliberate. "Do you ever get used to this?" he muttered under his breath. "No," I said softly. "But you learn to shield those you care about." He swallowed, eyes flicking down at the child. She's more than I imagined. More sensitive. And I failed her so many times." "You're noticing now," I said. "That's the beginning." He exhaled sharply. "Noticing, right? I want to be enough for her. But every time someone looks at her, it feels wrong. Like I'm failing to protect her." "You can't control everyone's gaze," I whispered. "You can only control your actions. And right now, being steady and present is enough." She pressed her cheek to the bunny and then peeked at her father. I saw the flicker of recognition, the testing of boundaries. He knelt slightly, careful not to overwhelm. "Sweetheart, it's okay," he murmured. "I'm here. I won't leave." Her small hand brushed his, tentative. And for a moment I felt a thrill of satisfaction. Influence without ambition. Power without expectation. I hadn't sought this, yet here it was, quiet, subtle, terrifying. Do you think she'll trust me?" he asked softly. "She will," I whispered. "If you keep showing up and if you stay calm when the world is loud." He exhaled slowly, jaw tight. I thought power could fix everything. Money, influence, authority, none of it matters here. She notices everything I can't give her. "That's why you need to be human," I said quietly. "Present. Vulnerable. Honest. She'll respond to that more than anything else." He looked at me, eyes dark, almost calculating. You've done more in 90 minutes than I've done in years. And I don't know how to repay that." "You don't repay," I whispered. "You show up. That's enough." The child hiccuped again, tiny and trembling. I kept my hand on hers, steadying her. "See? You're safe. I'm right here." She pressed against me slightly, and I felt her trust solidify, however small. And I realized something. The public chaos, the flashes, the questions, they didn't matter here. What mattered was presence. Protection. Connection. He glanced around nervously. I never realized how fragile she is." "She's strong," I whispered. "But she tests the world because she's learned early that it can hurt her. That's why she clings to what feels safe. And right now that's you, and me if you let me help." He swallowed, jaw tight. I don't know if I'm ready for this. To see her like this, exposed. Vulnerable. And yet, I want to be enough." "You will be," I said softly. "But you have to let go of control. Let her lead sometimes. Let her test you. That's how trust grows." She shifted slightly, peeking at her father, then back at me. And in that fleeting moment, I saw understanding flicker in her eyes. Recognition. Tentative approval. He exhaled, tension in his shoulders. I spent my life controlling everything else. And here, I can't control her. I can't control this world. And yet, I'm relieved. "That relief is real," I whispered. "Let it be a guide." He ran a hand over his face. I want to protect her. But I don't know if I can keep her safe from the world outside." "You can," I said softly. "By staying present. By noticing. By letting her see that she's safe with you, no matter the chaos outside." The reporters' shouts grew louder. Fans craned for photos. Flashing lights reflected off polished floors. The world had returned, loud and intrusive. I held her closer, guiding her through the chaos. "It's okay," I whispered. "Just stay with me. Keep calm." Her father followed, silent but attentive. I could see the cracks in the public persona everyone worshipped. Fatigue, impatience, longing for genuine connection. Money and power couldn't fill the gaps in his personal life. Only presence, honesty, and care could. "She notices when you're not authentic," I whispered. "The world can't fool her. And you can't fool her either." He exhaled sharply. I don't know if I'm ready for this kind of honesty." "You don't have to be perfect," I said. "You just have to start showing up, even when it's hard." The child hiccuped once more, small and tentative. She pressed against the bunny, then looked at me, and I felt a surge of responsibility. This trust was delicate. One wrong move, one harsh word, and it could shatter. He glanced at me, eyes wide. You shifted something here. I don't know how to describe it. And yet, I'm grateful." "You don't describe it," I said softly. You live it, one step at a time. And as we emerged into a quieter terminal corridor, away from the press and the flashes, I realized something terrifying and exhilarating. The world outside was ruthless, intrusive, and judgmental. And yet, here in these small steps, influence and trust had begun to bloom. But I could feel the tension too, the pressure to perform, to maintain composure, to protect both the child and myself. Exposure could ruin everything. Attention from someone so powerful could destroy anonymity. And I was acutely aware that I had begun to alter dynamics that no one, including him, fully understood. Because he was grateful, but vulnerable. And that attention, it wasn't easy to deflect. And she, fragile and hesitant, had chosen to trust me first. Which meant the next challenges wouldn't just come from the world outside, they would come from the delicate bonds we were forming, and the expectations silently placed on me. I didn't answer his eyes. I didn't speak. I simply guided her forward, holding her small hand. And the press, the flashes, the world outside, they could wait. For now, the fragile connection between us mattered more. But I knew, the moment we stepped fully into the public eye, the tests would begin. Trust, patience, control. And the subtle beginnings of karma, unseen but present. Because I had entered their lives. And nothing would ever be the same. The hotel suite smelled faintly of lavender, polished wood, and quiet expectation. It was expansive, sleek, and intimidating, everything a billionaire's private world should be. And yet I felt oddly at home. Not because of the luxury but because of the quiet opportunity it presented. She sat cross-legged on the couch, clutching her bunny, eyes wary. I knelt beside her, matching her level. "Hey," I whispered. "Do you want to tell me about your day?" She hesitated, then shrugged. It was loud. Loud? I repeated gently. Like the airplane? Or the cameras? Both, she said softly. And scary. I nodded, letting the words settle. I know. That's why I'm here. We can make it quieter together. Her father leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, eyes sharp. You don't have to follow her around, you know? I didn't look up. I'm not following. I'm noticing. She needs someone steady. Someone patient. He exhaled, tension in his shoulders. I try. I really do. But it's awkward. I don't know how to help her. You start by paying attention, I said softly. Not to fix her, not to direct her, but just to notice. That's all it takes. He frowned, voice low. Notice, right? But I'm afraid. I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing, of making it worse. I don't know how to read her. She tests you, I said gently. She has to. That's how she learns who's safe. And who isn't. He looked down at his daughter, who had shifted slightly, her small hand brushing against my knee. Safe. I've spent my life controlling everything. Money, decisions, people, and I can't control her. Good, I said quietly. You shouldn't. You just be present. Let her see you're steady. That's more powerful than control. He exhaled sharply. Steady. Right. I've never been called that before. I smiled faintly. It's easier than you think. You just notice what she needs before she asks. Sometimes that's enough. He shifted, uncertainty and awe in his eyes. You make it sound simple. But I feel like a stranger in her life. And maybe, in mine too. You're not a stranger, I whispered. You're learning. And she'll teach you. She already has, if you notice the small things. I glanced down at her. She tugged gently at the bunny, then looked at me, uncertain. She's sensitive, I said softly. Everything you do, everything you feel, she senses it. That's why patience matters. He nodded slowly. I never realized that. I've been too loud, too busy, too everything else. You're noticing now, I said quietly. That's the start. The rest comes with time. He exhaled, jaw tight. Time, right? I want to be enough for her. I want to protect her. I don't know if I can. You will, I said softly. Step by step. One act of patience at a time. She'll show you what she needs. And you just follow her lead sometimes. He studied me, eyes narrowing. Follow her lead, that's humbling. I'm not used to humility. It's necessary, I whispered. For her. For you. And for anyone who wants to truly connect. The child hiccuped softly, tiny and hesitant. I reached out, offering a small hand. She glanced at her father, then at me, then slowly, carefully, pressed her fingers against mine. The contact was fleeting, delicate, but monumental. He exhaled sharply. She trusts you. Already. And I don't even know how to begin. You start small, I said. Notice. Wait. Don't rush. That's how trust grows. He swallowed, voice low. I've spent years learning to control outcomes. And here. I can't control her. I don't know how to react. You don't have to react, I whispered. You just be steady. That's enough. That's more than you think. He leaned back, jaw tight. Steady, right? And yet, seeing her with you, I feel powerless, and I like it. It's terrifying, but I like it. I kept my gaze on her, but I felt it too, the subtle shift in power. She had chosen trust first with me, and he noticed it. Quiet influence, invisible but real. She pressed lightly against my knee, then looked up at her father. His jaw tightened, almost painfully, as he realized that influence was shifting, silently, in ways he couldn't control. You've changed things, he muttered, voice low. In ways I didn't anticipate. And I'm grateful. But also, afraid. Fear is natural, I whispered. But it's manageable. Especially if you stay present. He exhaled sharply, jaw tight. I've spent my life expecting admiration, respect, obedience. And here, a quiet stranger teaches me about patience, presence, and trust. And I don't know what to do with it. You live it, I said softly. One step at a time. You'll see. She'll respond. And so will you. The child shifted slightly, hiccuping again. I held her hand gently. See? You're safe. You're noticed. And you're learning. Her father watched silently, awe and fear in equal measure. I've never felt this exposed. And yet, I want it. I want to learn how to be enough. But it's overwhelming. You can, I said softly. One act at a time. That's all it takes. She'll guide you. And I'll help you navigate it too. He swallowed hard. Help, yes. But I don't want to depend on you. I need to learn for myself. You will, I whispered. But guidance is not dependence. Think of it as a bridge. You walk across it, but I hold it steady. His eyes narrowed, tension and admiration mingling. A bridge, right? I don't know if I've ever needed a bridge like that. You do now, I said softly. And you're lucky. She's teaching you too. Watch her closely. Notice the small gestures, the hesitations, the fleeting smiles. Those are treasures. And you need to treasure them too. He exhaled sharply. I want to. I do. But I fear I'll fail. Then start now, I whispered. Not tomorrow. Not later. No. She's ready to teach and you are ready to learn. She hiccuped softly, small and trembling. I felt her trust solidify slightly, a fragile thread connecting us. And I realized again that influence was shifting. Quiet, patient, invisible, but undeniable. He watched, jaw tight, aware of the subtle power dynamics forming. You've changed something, he muttered. Not just with her, with me. And I don't know how to handle that. You don't handle it, I said softly. You experience it, one step at a time. That's enough. That's all anyone can ask. The child's eyes flicked between us, observing, measuring, and in that small glance, I understood something profound. Influence isn't about authority. It's about presence, patience, and trust. And I had begun to shape both their lives, quietly, invisibly, and irrevocably. He exhaled slowly, jaw tight. I've never met anyone like you. Calm, patient, aware. And yet, I'm drawn to it. Terrifyingly drawn. You don't have to understand it, I whispered. Just notice it, and act on it gently. That's all that matters. He nodded slowly, tension in his shoulders, awe and fear intertwined. I'll try. I want to try. I smiled faintly, eyes on her. Then we start small. One moment at a time. That's how trust grows. That's how patience grows. That's how influence works. And in that quiet, still sweet, I felt it. The subtle power of my presence, the fragile trust of a child, and the vulnerable awe of a man used to controlling everything. Influence without authority. Guidance without demand. Patience without expectation. But I also felt fear. Exposure could ruin everything. Misread intentions, misinterpreted actions. Chaos could erupt. I had entered a delicate world, and the stakes were higher than I'd imagined. Because trust, once given, could be broken. Admiration, once noticed, could turn to expectation. And attention from someone so powerful could consume me entirely. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I simply held her hand. And waited. The quiet influence I wielded had begun to shape them both. And I knew deep down that the next moments would test all of us. Because subtle power can be the most dangerous, and the most intoxicating, force of all. The next morning the suite felt different. The air was heavy with unspoken judgments. The child slept quietly, the bunny pressed to her cheek, but I could sense tension threading through the walls like static. I had thought the biggest challenge was connecting with her father, guiding him, keeping the child calm. But the world outside, it had noticed me. And not everyone was pleased. He entered the room, crisp shirt, tired eyes, face carefully neutral. "Good morning," he said, voice polite but carrying an edge I hadn't heard before. "Morning," I whispered, keeping my tone calm. "How did you sleep?" He exhaled, rubbing his eyes. "Fitfully. There are complications I need to address. People who don't understand your presence here." I froze slightly. Complications. He shifted, hesitating. "My business rival, and my sister. They've noticed you. And the effect you have. They're whispering, questioning, planting doubt." "Doubt?" I echoed softly. "About me?" He nodded, jaw tight. "About you. About me. About whether this arrangement is wise. They're subtle, insidious, but I feel it." I pressed my lips together. I had anticipated scrutiny, but hearing it aloud made it real. Quiet power had consequences. Not everyone could welcome influence that didn't align with their expectations. "They don't know me," I said softly. "And they never will unless I let them. You have to trust what you feel. And what you see." He exhaled sharply. "I want to. But I worry about appearances. And if they succeed in sowing doubt." "You'll see through it," I whispered. "You've already started noticing the small things. Let their whispers fade into nothing." He ran a hand through his hair. I want to, but it's difficult. They're persistent. They're human," I said softly. "And human jealousy and fear are loud. But quiet actions, lasting actions, they're stronger than whispers." He looked at me, eyes narrowing. You make it sound so simple. But I feel powerless against them." "You're not powerless," I said quietly. "You're learning patience, observation, subtle influence. They can speak. But your actions, your presence, matter more." He exhaled sharply, jaw tight. "Presence, right. I've been too distracted with power and control. And here, it's irrelevant. And yet it matters most." I nodded. "Exactly. And you'll see that the more you focus on the small, meaningful moments, the less noise will affect you." The child stirred, stretching, eyes blinking open. She clutched the bunny, her small fingers brushing mine. I smiled softly. "Good morning," I whispered. She gave a small, tentative smile. And I realized, my presence, however quiet, had become a stabilizing force for both of them. Later, over breakfast, the tension surfaced again. His sister arrived, a carefully measured smile masking curiosity and judgment. "You must be the librarian everyone is talking about," she said, eyes sharp. "I've heard you've influenced my brother and my niece." "That correct." I kept my tone soft. "I'm here to help them feel safe. That's all." "Safe?" she repeated, skepticism lacing her words. "Do you really think anyone should have that kind of influence over our lives without oversight?" I glanced at her brother. He looked tense, jaw tight. I could see the flicker of doubt she planted. But I didn't flinch. "Influence isn't control," I said quietly. "It's subtle. Patient. It's being present, noticing what matters and supporting quietly." Her eyes narrowed. "Support quietly, or manipulate quietly?" I held her gaze calm. "Support. Always support. Manipulation leaves a mark you can't erase. Influence is temporary unless it's built on trust." He exhaled, voice low. "Ignore her. She's testing. That's all it is." I nodded, giving him a subtle, encouraging smile. "Exactly. And she'll see in time that quiet presence matters more than loud opinion." But the sister's parting words lingered. "We'll be watching." Later, the business rival called, a cool, measured tone that carried both envy and veiled threat. "I hear you've made an impression," he said. "Be careful. Influence like yours, it attracts attention. And not all of it is friendly." "I understand," I said softly. "I only act where trust is given. That's all." "Trust," he echoed, voice low. "A fragile thing. Don't break it." "I never do," I said, voice calm, steady. He paused. "We'll see." The line went dead. I exhaled slowly, tension coiling in my chest. Quiet influence was no longer just about connection. It had provoked subtle wars, tests I hadn't anticipated. That evening, I found myself alone with the child in the suite's library. Shelves of books surrounded us, old leather spines offering comfort in the silence. She tugged at my hand. "Are they angry with you?" "I don't think so," I whispered. "They're cautious, curious, maybe even a little jealous. But that's not your worry." She looked unsure. "But they're mean sometimes. I can feel it." "Yes," I said softly. "But mean feelings often come from fear. Fear of change. Fear of someone noticing what they've ignored. That's all. We just keep being ourselves." She nodded, though doubt lingered in her eyes. "I like it when you help me." I smiled, brushing her hair gently. "I like helping you too. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Not here. Not with us." Later, her father joined us, tension still evident but softened. I don't want you to feel attacked. But I see what they're doing. And I trust you. Even if they don't." I glanced up, giving a subtle smile. "Thank you. That means a lot." He exhaled, voice low. I've spent my life surrounded by people who praise loudly and stab quietly. And here, you quietly help us see what matters. And I can't unsee it." I felt my pulse quicken. Influence wasn't loud or demanding. It was subtle, patient, and terrifyingly powerful. I had entered their lives quietly, and now unseen battles had begun. I realized that each decision I made, from comforting the child to observing his reactions, was being watched, evaluated, challenged. My presence wasn't neutral. It had weight. And that weight could provoke war. But stepping back, retreating, that wasn't an option. I couldn't abandon them now. The child had begun to trust me. And he, in small, hesitant ways, was beginning to notice the value of patience, empathy, and calm. Each small choice I made strengthened my resolve. Every act of observation, every gentle word, every quiet encouragement was an invisible victory. And karma, subtle and insistent, had begun its work. Later, when the room quieted, I stood by the window looking down at the city lights. Shadows flickered across the suite's polished floor. The rival and his sister's whispers, though faint, lingered in the corners of my mind. I realized then, influence carried risk. Attention could be dangerous. Misinterpretation could destroy trust. And yet, stepping away now would undo everything I had built in silence. I turned to see her father watching me from the doorway. His expression was unreadable, curiosity, admiration, and subtle fear tangled in his gaze. You're not like anyone I've ever met," he said quietly. "And I don't know if I can handle it. And yet, I want to." "You don't have to handle it alone," I whispered. "We'll take it one step at a time. Patience, trust, presence. That's all it takes." He exhaled sharply. I want to try. For her. And maybe, for me too." I felt the weight of the battles around us, unseen but real. Quiet influence had drawn attention, provoked jealousy, and tested loyalty. And I had chosen to stay. Because retreating wasn't an option. Because the child's fragile trust depended on me. And because the man watching me, so powerful and so flawed, was beginning to shift, not through force but through presence, patience, and quiet guidance. And in that realization I understood the truth. Karma didn't shout. It whispered. It moved quietly. And it had already begun. The unseen battles had started. And I was ready. The boardroom smelled of polished wood and tension, the air thick with anticipation. I followed him quietly, the child safely with her grandmother in another suite. I had warned him before, public spaces could amplify everything, but nothing could prepare him for what was about to unfold. He strode in, confident, impeccable, every inch the billionaire the world adored. But confidence can mask vulnerability, and I had learned to read both. "Good morning, everyone," he began, voice steady but tight. The rival executive, slick, sharp-eyed, and always calculating, smiled thinly. We're all ready to review the numbers. Except, there seems to be a discrepancy." He frowned, scanning the documents. "A discrepancy?" "Yes," the executive said, tone deliberate. "In the projections. It appears that someone has misrepresented the figures. It's serious." I watched him stiffen. Pride, irritation, and a flicker of fear crossed his eyes. I leaned back slightly, quiet, letting him face the pressure. "This cannot be correct," he said sharply, jaw tight. "We double-checked the data. There's no error. Are you suggesting incompetence?" The executive's lips curled. I'm suggesting we examine responsibility carefully. Mistakes have consequences, don't they? I saw the room stiffen. Colleagues exchanged subtle glances, tension rising. Humiliation was on the horizon. He exhaled sharply, voice low, frustrated. I don't appreciate insinuations. I moved just slightly, enough to catch his eye. A subtle gesture, silent guidance. Breathe. Observe. Listen. He looked at me, confusion flickering. I nodded imperceptibly, signaling calm. The executive smirked. If no one is responsible, we must consider alternatives. Perhaps restructuring? The board murmured, tension escalating. I felt his pride bristle. This was his domain, his narrative, and it was slipping. I leaned closer in thought, considering how to intervene. Subtlety was key. He had to see the solution without thinking I'd taken control. Quiet influence. Patience. Excuse me, I said softly, voice low enough that only he could hear. Notice how he frames it. He's testing your reactions, gauging confidence. He's trying to provoke a misstep. He blinked, jaw tightening. Testing? Yes, I whispered. Step back. Don't defend aggressively. Observe, gather facts. Respond calmly. Humiliation thrives on reaction. He inhaled sharply, steadying. All right, calmly, he muttered. The executive continued, eyes glinting. I'm sure this is an oversight. But in matters of finance, oversight can be costly. He paused, jaw tight. I could see frustration mounting. Pride wanted to explode. Ego wanted to retaliate. I subtly shifted, placing a hand near a pen on the table, not touching it, just presence. A grounding anchor. Let's check the numbers thoroughly, I whispered. Request the backup files. Don't respond to the tone, just request facts. He nodded slowly, voice low but steady. Yes, the backup files. Let's review them carefully before jumping to conclusions. The executive's smirk faltered slightly. As you wish. But time is money and errors, costly. We proceeded methodically. He asked for the files, reviewed the data, and corrected the minor misalignment that had been exaggerated into a potential scandal. I stayed quiet, letting him lead, but guiding him in subtle, almost invisible ways. His voice was calm now, steady, and for the first time, I saw the hint of awe in his eyes. He realized that control didn't have to be loud. It could be measured, deliberate, quiet. Everything aligns, he said finally, voice firm. The figures are accurate. The discrepancy was misreported. A tense pause. Then the executive's tone shifted, careful, measured. I see, thank you for clarifying. My apologies for the implication. He exhaled sharply, subtle relief washing over him. He had navigated the confrontation without humiliation, without anger, but guided by invisible hands he barely understood. I felt it too, the quiet power shift. My presence, patient and attentive, had prevented disaster. I hadn't spoken loudly, I hadn't taken credit, yet influence had quietly shaped the outcome. He turned slightly, catching my eye across the boardroom table. Gratitude flashed, laced with subtle frustration. Regret, too, that he had underestimated the people he thought powerless. After the meeting, we walked through the quiet corridors. He exhaled sharply, voice low. I don't know how to thank you. That could have ended very badly. You don't need to thank me, I whispered. You did the hard work. I just guided. No, he said, voice tense. You changed the outcome. You saved me from humiliation. I kept my gaze low, careful. It's not about me. It's about seeing what's necessary and acting calmly. That's all. He stopped, jaw tight, voice low. And yet, I can't stop noticing. I underestimated you. I don't know how I didn't see it before. I felt a thrill, subtle, dangerous, and intoxicating. Influence without claim. Power without ambition. He looked at me again, voice softer. You're irreplaceable. I don't want to rely on anyone else like this. You don't have to say that, I whispered. Just notice it, and remember it. The child's laughter echoed faintly from another room, grounding us in reality. He smiled briefly, gaze distant. I worry sometimes. That relying on you, that influence, it might change things in ways I don't understand yet. It already has, I said softly. But in ways that matter. Later, back in the suite, he sank into a chair, rubbing his face. I can't believe how easily I could have lost control in there. And the worst part, I would have blamed myself first, without realizing the subtle guidance I needed. You notice now, I said. And noticing is the first step. He exhaled, jaw tight. I want to do more than notice. I want to understand. And yet, I feel exposed, vulnerable, and frustrated that I didn't see it before. That's part of learning, I whispered. Frustration is a teacher. Exposure is a guide. And regret can be useful if it shapes action. He studied me eyes sharp. Action, right. And your action, it's invisible, subtle. And I see the difference it makes. And it frustrates me how I missed it before. You were busy controlling everything else, I said softly. Now you're learning to notice what truly matters. He exhaled sharply, leaning back. I don't know if I'll ever see it the same way again. You shifted something. And I'm not sure if I like it or if I love it. I'm not here for love, I whispered. I'm here for presence. Come. Patience. Influence without demand. That's what matters. He shook his head slightly, voice low. I don't think I've ever encountered someone like you. Come. Unassuming. And yet, devastatingly effective. You notice, I said quietly. And noticing is the power that matters. Not me, not the applause, not the recognition. Just noticing. That's how change begins. He exhaled, jaw tight. I've been humbled. And I don't know how to handle that. But I want to. I'll guide, I whispered. But only gently. Only when needed. Influence is strongest when it's subtle. He nodded, a faint smile flickering. Subtle, right. I see now. I see you. The quiet in the suite was profound, interrupted only by the distant sound of the city outside. The child's laughter, a gentle reminder of what truly mattered, echoed softly. I realized then, the first real confrontation had passed. Humiliation had been avoided. Pride had been tempered. And for the first time I felt the stirrings of true control, not loud or brash but subtle, patient, and undeniable. Because influence didn't shout. It whispered. It guided. And it shaped outcomes that no one else could see until the effects were already real. He glanced at me again, eyes thoughtful, wary yet aware. You've changed the narrative. And I don't know if I can go back. You won't go back, I whispered. And that's fine. You don't need to. Just move forward, noticing, learning, trusting. He exhaled, jaw tight. Noticing, right. Learning, yes. Trusting, slowly. But I will. Because I see the difference already. I felt it too. Karma, subtle and insistent, was in motion. Actions and choices, small and deliberate, had shifted power, perception, and trust. And the first real confrontation had proven that influence, quiet, patient, invisible, was stronger than arrogance, manipulation, or fear. And from that moment I knew, nothing would ever be the same. The nights were the hardest. Quiet, long, filled with the weight of reflection. The child slept soundly in the next room, a rare peace after weeks of chaos. And I, once invisible, tucked behind shelves of books, found myself at a new kind of center. He sat across from me at the small dining table, laptop open, papers scattered. The glow from the screen reflected in his eyes, tired, wary, but attentive. I don't know how to do this, he muttered. Do what? I asked softly, keeping my voice calm. Balance. Care routines, schedules, attention. I'm used to commanding, controlling, making everything fit my plan. But this requires listening. Patience. Understanding. You're listening, I whispered. That's the first step. The hardest step. He exhaled sharply, rubbing his temples. It feels like I'm failing. And yet, every time I try, I see you guiding, not giving orders, not dictating, but shaping everything subtly. And I can't ignore it. You don't have to ignore it, I said quietly. Notice it. Learn from it. Let it help you, not threaten you. He stared at me, jaw tight. I've spent my life surrounded by people who flattered me, who feared me. And here, I'm listening to someone who has no ambition for wealth, fame, or influence. And I'm afraid I'll rely too much on you. You won't rely, I whispered. You'll learn. And the child, she'll learn too. Influence without demand. Guidance without control. That's what matters. He leaned back, gaze distant. It's unsettling. To be vulnerable. To admit you need guidance from someone you would have dismissed before. You needed it, I said softly. And now you see the difference. He exhaled, voice low. I see it. I can't unsee it. You've changed everything. Quietly. And I don't know if I like it, or if I fear it. You'll manage, I whispered. The power isn't loud. It's patient, subtle. and it's yours to wield thoughtfully. The next nights were spent together, quietly planning care routines, schedules, even small rituals to build trust with the child. He began to ask questions I hadn't expected. "Why do you approach her this way?" he asked one evening, voice low. "Because it works," I said softly. "Because she feels safe. Because rushing, controlling, or scolding would undo the trust we've built." He frowned, leaning forward. "And you think I can do it too?" "Yes," I whispered. "Step by step. Slowly. Observe her. Notice her cues. Mirror patience. Show consistency. That's how influence takes hold." I never thought I'd learn this from someone like you," he said quietly. "Someone ordinary. And yet, the impact is extraordinary." "You've always had the capacity," I said gently. "You just never noticed what truly mattered until now." He exhaled sharply, tension in his shoulders. I feel exposed, vulnerable, and frustrated that it took so long to see it. And yet, I'm grateful. Terribly grateful." I smiled faintly. Gratitude is powerful. But it's also subtle. Let it guide your actions, not your ego. He nodded slowly, staring at the papers on the table. I want to get this right. For her. For me. For everything I've overlooked before." "You will," I whispered. "By noticing, by listening, by choosing patience over pride. That's how change happens." The child appeared at the doorway, clutching her bunny. She glanced at him, then at me, small eyes bright. "Mommy's not here," she said softly, voice trembling. "I know," he whispered, voice tight. "And I'm here. And she's here. And we'll get through it together." I knelt beside her, offering a gentle smile. "And I'm here too. Quietly. Patiently. Together." He exhaled, voice low. You've become indispensable. And I never expected that." "Indispensable isn't power," I whispered. "It's presence, trust, and quiet guidance." He leaned back, jaw tight, staring at the floor. I see it now. And I fear how much I've underestimated people. How much I've dismissed what I thought powerless." "You're learning," I said softly. "And that's what matters." The nights grew longer, filled with strategy sessions about family routines, schooling, even the child's social interactions. I suggested small adjustments. He implemented them, learning each nuance. "You've changed my perspective," he said one evening, voice low, tired but intent. I used to think influence was about command, control, power. Now, I see it's subtle, patient, invisible, yet undeniable." "Yes," I whispered. "And it matters more than any loud authority. You're learning that quietly without noticing the shift, but it's real. Already it's shaping your world." He paused, exhaling sharply. "And I don't know how to process it. That someone I would have dismissed could teach me, guide me, influence me. I welcome it." "You welcome it because it works," I said gently. "And because you notice. And because you see the change it brings, not just to her but to you." He leaned back, voice quiet. I feel humbled. And yet, I feel powerful in a different way. Not through wealth, control, or command, but through understanding, presence, patience, and, maybe, trust." "You're learning," I whispered. "And that learning is the transformation. Subtle, invisible, undeniable." Later, he approached me quietly while she slept, eyes serious. I feel different. And I see what I've missed for years. Small gestures, subtle influence. I've dismissed them before. And now, I can't. I don't want to." "You're noticing," I said softly. "And noticing is the first step toward change." He nodded slowly, jaw tight. "And I don't know how much of this I can handle. How much power I've overlooked, until it was demonstrated quietly by someone I never expected." "You can handle it," I whispered. "Because you're learning to notice, to act without ego, to trust without fear. That's true transformation." He exhaled sharply. I want to be better. For her. For myself. For the people I've underestimated. And for you." "You don't act for me," I said gently. "You act for them. For her. For yourself. That's the power of quiet influence." The nights continued, each one a lesson in subtlety, patience, and trust. He began asking questions I hadn't expected. How to handle jealousy, how to approach challenges without force, how to connect with someone without controlling them. "You've changed me," he admitted one night. Voice low, weary yet awed. "Quietly, subtly. And I feel it in every decision I make now." I'm not the same man who dismissed everything he couldn't control. You're noticing, I said softly. And noticing is the shift, the transformation. Quiet, invisible, undeniable. The child, now calmer, more confident, mirrored my quiet power in small ways, her gestures, her attention, her trust. I realized then that my own transformation was profound. From invisible librarian to indispensable presence, shaping the emotional and relational landscape around me without overt authority, without ambition. He watched me one night as I adjusted the child's blanket. I don't know if I can fully articulate what you've done, but I feel it, and I respect it. Fear it maybe, but respect it. You notice, I whispered, and that's enough. That noticing shapes the world. He exhaled slowly, and I can't unsee it. I can't ignore it. You have become essential, quietly, and yet, undeniably. Yes, I said softly, and that's the power of subtle influence, of quiet presence, of trust earned not demanded, and it shapes everything once it's in motion. He leaned back, jaw tight, voice low. I feel changed, and I fear the implications, that this quiet force, this influence, might extend beyond my control. That's life, I whispered. Influence, trust, patience, they ripple. And you're learning to ride the ripple, not resist it. He studied me, awe and fear mingling. And I see you, truly see you. And I don't know what to do with that. But I can't turn away. I smiled faintly. Don't turn away. Notice. Trust. And let the quiet transformation unfold. And in that small suite, surrounded by books, papers, and the quiet breathing of the child, I felt it. The subtle power shift had taken hold. Karma had begun its work. An influence, quiet, patient, undeniable, was shaping all of us in ways that could no longer be unseen. The suite was quiet, shadows pooling in the corners as the city lights flickered beyond the windows. The child had drifted to sleep in the nursery, and the apartment felt heavy with unspoken truths. I stood by the window, hands folded, observing him from across the room. He hesitated, pacing slowly as though measuring whether he could speak without shattering the fragile calm. Finally, he exhaled and sat on the edge of the sofa, voice low. I don't know where to start, he admitted. I've carried this regret for years. I stayed silent, giving him space. My presence alone was enough to anchor him. It's about her, he continued, voice tight. About my daughter. About the years I missed. The birthdays I didn't attend. The small moments I dismissed thinking I was building something important. I felt a pang of empathy, but I didn't move closer. This was his truth to confront, not mine to fix. Go on, I whispered softly. I was so focused on empire building, he said, voice low, almost a whisper. So obsessed with control, growth, appearances, I forgot that love isn't built in boardrooms. That connection isn't measured in assets or schedules. I nodded slightly, letting him speak without interruption. Silence can be its own lesson. And now, he continued, voice breaking, I see what I've lost. Every milestone she's reached. I wasn't there. Every tear I didn't wipe, every hug I didn't give, I can't get back. And I can't forgive myself. I watched him, heart aching. His pride, his ego, all stripped bare in the quiet of our shared space. And yet, I felt a strange power stir inside me. Not domination, not control, but choice. I had earned the right to decide what I wanted. I understand, I said softly. You're not used to vulnerability. But it's not too late to change, to connect, to be present. He looked at me, eyes glistening. But the years, they're gone. And I fear I've left a scar too deep to repair. And I should have seen sooner. I should have noticed people like you sooner. You did notice, I whispered. You're noticing now. That's what matters. He leaned back, gaze distant. And yet, I see the consequences of my absence. I see her trust slowly rebuilding piece by piece, and I know I can't take credit. You guided her, calmed her, helped her, and me. And I feel powerless. That I relied on someone I dismissed before. I felt the quiet hum of karma, subtle but undeniable. His regret was real, raw, and honest. And my silence, my calm presence, gave me the ultimate agency. I've spent years chasing everything but what matters, he said, voice breaking. And I don't know if I deserve her trust. Or yours. You don't owe me trust, I whispered. You've earned your chance to repair it with her. And with yourself. He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. I want to do better. I need to. But I fear I'll fail. Failure isn't the point, I said softly. Learning, noticing, choosing differently, that's the point. He studied me, eyes raw. And you've chosen your own path. Quiet, strong, indispensable. And I can't influence that. I want to, but I can't. You don't have to, I said. That's the lesson. I choose how I move forward. I choose what I let into my life. And you choose how to rebuild. He nodded slowly, jaw tight. And I regret the past. I see it clearly now. I know what I lost. And I want to make it right. And you can, I whispered. But it's your journey, not mine. My journey is mine. He exhaled, leaning forward, voice low. And yet, I feel the pull. That if I ask you to stay, you could be part of that healing. That guidance. I'm already part of it, I said softly. But I don't owe you presence beyond what I choose. That's the difference between influence and obligation. And I choose carefully. He leaned back, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the floor. And I see that. Your strength, it's terrifying. And yet, necessary. You notice, I whispered. And noticing is power. Quiet, subtle, undeniable. He paused, voice trembling. I should have noticed it years ago. And I underestimated it. And now, I see the consequences. And I regret it. Regret is useful, I said softly. If it teaches, if it guides, if it shapes action. But it's not yours to dwell on forever. I see that, he said, voice low. And I hope she forgives me. I hope I can rebuild what I broke. You can, I said. Step by step. Small gestures. Presence. Attention. And let your actions speak louder than your regrets. He exhaled sharply, eyes meeting mine. And you could choose to stay. To be part of it. And I fear that your choice might be elsewhere. Exactly, I whispered. That's the point. I choose my path. Influence without obligation. Presence without demand. And I choose carefully. He nodded slowly, voice tight. And I respect that. Fear it maybe. But respect it. The child's soft laughter echoed from the nursery, a reminder of what truly mattered. He glanced toward her, voice low, almost a whisper. I can't undo the past. But I can shape the future. And I want to try. Then notice it, I said softly. Every small step counts. Every choice, every moment, every act of presence. That's how change happens. He exhaled, voice trembling. And you've shown me that. Quietly, subtly. And I can't ignore it. And I respect it. And yet, I fear it. Fear is natural, I whispered. But it doesn't dictate your choices. And it doesn't dictate mine. We each move forward in the ways we choose. He studied me, awe and humility tangled in his gaze. And I see you. Truly see you. And I don't know how to process it. But I cannot unsee it. That's the lesson, I said softly. Seeing clearly. Acting deliberately. Choosing consciously. He exhaled slowly, voice low. And I regret my absence. My arrogance. My pride. And yet, I see the lessons now. And I hope I'm worthy of repairing what I've broken. You are, I whispered. If your actions match your words. And if you keep noticing, learning, and acting with care. He nodded slowly, jaw tight. And I can't change the past. But I can try to shape the future. I can hope she and you accept that effort. I remained silent, letting him feel the weight of his words, his vulnerability. My calm presence, my quiet strength, was the ultimate authority in that moment. Karma had delivered its lesson. He understood what he had lost, and I chose what I would gain. I want to be better, he whispered finally. And I want her to know I'm here. Truly here. And I hope I can be enough. You will be, I said softly. But only if you notice, act, and respect the boundaries of what matters. That's how trust is rebuilt. He exhaled sharply, jaw tight, eyes distant. And I see it now. And I cannot take your presence for granted. And I respect the choice you will make. Whatever it is. That's all I ask, I whispered. Respect my choice. And act honestly in yours. And the rest will follow. He leaned back, voice low, trembling with raw emotion. And I see clearly now. I regret what I lost. And I hope I can make it right. But I cannot demand your presence. And I cannot expect it. And I must live with that knowledge. You notice, I said softly. And noticing is the quietest, strongest power there is. The child stirred faintly from the nursery, a reminder that life moves forward, whether we are ready or not. He looked toward her, exhaled, voice low. I hope I can be the father she deserves. And I hope I can honor the lessons you've taught me, quietly, subtly, always. You will, I whispered. If you act, if you notice, if you choose wisely. And I will continue to move forward in my own path. Quiet, strong, deliberate. He nodded slowly, jaw tight, voice low. And I understand now. I cannot take for granted what I cannot control. And I cannot influence what you choose. And I must accept that. And I do. And in that quiet suite, surrounded by soft shadows, by the child's breathing, by the weight of past mistakes, I felt the full circle of karma. He understood loss. He felt regret. And I held the power of choice. The lesson was complete. The cabin lights were dimmed, a soft hum of engines beneath us. The child slept in my lap, her small hand curled around my fingers. I felt her warmth, her steady breathing, and the quiet reassurance of trust earned over weeks of care. He sat across the aisle, gaze shifting between the sleeping child and me, the weight of understanding settling in his eyes. You've done something remarkable, he said quietly, voice almost a whisper. Not just with her, but with me. I didn't realize how much I needed to see it done differently. I smiled faintly, keeping my voice soft. You noticed? That's all that mattered. Not my effort, not my presence, but your noticing. That's the only way change can happen. He nodded slowly, jaw tight, voice low. I underestimated everything I thought I understood. Power, influence, love. I thought I could command it all. And I see now that I was wrong. Completely wrong. You see now, I said softly. And you can choose differently from here. That's what matters. He exhaled, voice low, almost reverent. I wish I could go back. Fix what I missed. But I know I can't. And yet, I feel lighter. Because I understand now. Not for the world, not for appearances, but for her, and for you. You've learned, I whispered. And that's enough. For both of us. The child stirred slightly, mumbling in her sleep. I stroked her hair gently, murmuring a soft reassurance. Her trust, earned through patience and quiet guidance, felt like the truest measure of influence. He watched, silent, absorbing the small, intimate moments I had guided, never demanding, never forcing. He had witnessed the quiet authority of presence, the subtle power of calm, and the patience that shaped trust. Seeing her like this, peaceful, confident, he said quietly, voice low. I realize what I lost before. And I understand now that love cannot be forced. Power cannot replace presence. And I'm sorry. You don't owe me apologies, I said softly. You've earned understanding through reflection, observation, and effort. That's more important than words. He nodded slowly, jaw tight. And yet, I feel the weight of all the words I didn't speak, the moments I missed, the guidance I overlooked, and I wish I could have trusted earlier. You did trust eventually, I whispered, and that trust shaped everything. That's the lesson. Not mistakes, not regret, but noticing, learning, choosing differently. The child stirred again, turning her small head toward him. He offered a gentle smile, eyes softening. I promise to be here more. Not perfect, not controlling, but present. Always present. I smiled faintly, feeling a quiet satisfaction. Presence is the greatest gift. And you've begun to give it honestly, without expectation or pride. That's all anyone can ask for. He exhaled, voice low. I see you now, truly. And I understand the boundaries you've set, the choices you've made. And I respect them. Even if I wish differently. You notice, I said softly. And that noticing is the quietest, strongest power there is. Respecting boundaries is as important as offering guidance. Influence only works when it's earned, not demanded. He leaned back, voice trembling slightly. I regret my absence, my pride, my ego, but I cannot change the past. I can only act in the present. And I choose to act differently now. For her, for myself, and for you. You already act, I whispered. by noticing, reflecting, and choosing carefully. And I will continue to choose my path. Calm, deliberate, independent, but connected in ways that matter. The hum of the engines filled the space between us, punctuating the quiet understanding. Time slowed, not in minutes or hours, but in the weight of shared truths. You've changed me, he said softly. Not in loud gestures, not through command, but through presence. Quiet, unwavering presence. And I feel both humbled and grateful. You notice, I said softly. And that noticing is the power that shapes change. Not wealth, not status, not force, but calm, deliberate observation. And you are learning that. He nodded slowly, voice low. And I can't ignore it. And I will not take it for granted. I want to be better for her, for myself. And I respect the choice you've made. I noticed that, I whispered. And that noticing completes the circle. Influence is strongest when it's subtle, patient, and deliberate. And trust is built quietly, moment by moment. He exhaled, jaw tight, eyes softening. And I see it now. The mistakes I made, the lessons I ignored, the guidance I overlooked. And I hope I can honor it. Not for appearances, not for the world, but for her, and for you. You will, I said softly. If you continue to notice, continue to act carefully, and continue to respect boundaries. That's the measure of true change. The child shifted in my lap, murmuring softly, and I stroked her hair, feeling her trust radiate through her small body. It was tangible, real, and unshakable. I see how much I've learned, he said quietly. And yet, I fear I'll falter. That my old habits, my old pride will resurface. And I worry I won't live up to what I've been taught. Fear is natural, I whispered. It doesn't dictate your choices. Noticing and acting deliberately does. And you've begun that process. That's all anyone can do. He nodded slowly, jaw tight, voice low. And I'm grateful. Terribly grateful. For the lessons, the guidance, the patience. And I see the difference it makes already. You notice, I said softly. And noticing shapes everything. That's the quiet, undeniable power of presence. He studied me, eyes soft, voice low. And I understand now. Love cannot be forced. Influence cannot replace trust. And I see the value of calm, patient guidance. And I respect it. I noticed that, I whispered. And that's enough. Presence, patience, trust, those are the lasting gifts we can give. He exhaled sharply, voice trembling slightly. And I hope I can continue to honor what you've shown. That I can learn to be the father she needs, the man who understands, and the person who respects boundaries. You will, I whispered. By noticing, reflecting, and acting deliberately. And I will continue to move forward in my own path. Independent, strong, calm, but connected in ways that matter. The child stirred again, reaching for his hand. He took it gently, voice low, almost reverent. I will be here. Truly here. And I hope I can honor her trust. And yours. You already do, I whispered. By noticing, by respecting, by choosing deliberately. That's the measure of change. And it's enough. He nodded slowly, jaw tight, voice soft. And I understand now. I cannot undo the past. I cannot demand your presence. I can only act honestly, with reflection, with care. And I will try. For her. For myself. And, quietly, for the lessons you've taught. Yes, I whispered. And that is enough. Influence is quiet, trust is earned, and boundaries are honored. And together, we leave a legacy of presence, not command. Patience, not pride. Care, not coercion. He exhaled, voice low, eyes softening, finally allowing a faint smile. And I see clearly now. I understand what I lost, what I gained, and what I must continue to honor. And I will. I held the child closer, feeling her heartbeat against me, her small hand in mine. My journey from invisible observer to emotional architect was complete. I had influenced, guided, and shaped change, not through force but through calm, quiet presence. We were not lovers in the conventional sense. We were changed people, connected through empathy, trust, and mutual understanding. Boundaries were honored, mistakes were acknowledged, and the quiet lessons of karma and influence had been learned. The hum of the engines, the soft breathing of the child, and the subtle exchange of understanding between us marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another, separate, yet deeply intertwined. I whispered softly to the child, stroking her hair. Sleep well, little one. The world is safer because of patience, presence, and care. And tomorrow, we continue quietly, deliberately, wisely. He watched, eyes soft, voice low. And I will be here. Not as a master, not as a savior, but as someone who notices, respects, and acts deliberately. And that is enough. I nodded, eyes on the sleeping child. Enough. Presence, trust, patience, and quiet guidance. That is the true measure of change. And in that gentle cabin light, with the engines humming softly beneath us, I felt it. Closure, understanding, and a profound sense of calm satisfaction. The story had ended, not with grand gestures but with quiet, deliberate, unshakable transformation. We had all changed. And the world for a moment felt right.